Recording started. I'm going to share my presentation here. If somebody can let me know they can see the presentation or not, that would be great. Anybody?
Yep.
And I can't see it. Okay, great. Thank you. So today we're going to talk about network protection, command and control, detection and remediation inside of Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. Whoa, that changed on its own. I didn't do that. So a couple things, why through network protection? So if network protection is enabled, as I said, Defender for endpoint onboard devices, and one of the endpoint establishes a connection to, let's say, a Cobalt Strike, a new command, C2 server. Network protection monitoring capability will detect its IP, but network protection has a low confidence in blocking a connection, and it's because we don't have enough information. So we need other things like the port, the C2 family, other information to feed this engine. And basically what we're doing is, because we don't have that information, we don't want to start blocking because of all the false positives that can happen. So it leads to high false positives. In terms of making an immediate action, the engine's going to fail to remediate remediate the malware based on the lack of detailed information from this particular traffic. There will be no alert in the EDR, hence SecOps will not be aware of the connection. So what are we changing? So what we're doing, is where network protection and real-time protection are enabled to monitor all the inbound, outbound TCP, UDP traffic while leveraging Microsoft Intelligence Services. So this is where we're actually going to get that additional information from. So, if the endpoint establishes a connection to a legitimate service hosted on an IP where one of the ports had identified with a command server, because we have both the command, the C2 IP address and the family information in our Mace engine, I probably should have taken that out, and I probably will if I put the PowerPoint up there, but our Mace engine is an internal engine that we use to determine compromised accounts and compromised IP addresses and that type of stuff. Such connection will be blocked by both network protection, and the IP data will be sent to the engine for remediation. Not all ports of the IP have to have C2 traffic, so the engine will be identifying malware and rolling back both bad and good binaries for all devices that have attempted these connection to the IP addresses. So why work with command and control? When you look at the cyber kill chain, C2 is actually very critical. It's going to be the last place where we can actually make a block if we have not made a block prior to that beforehand. So you can see they're going to do things like reconnaissance, weaponize, delivery, exploit. Command and control is the actual last piece in the chain that they need before they can start taking remote control of that machine. You can see it's being used for 100% in some of the most prevalent malware families out there, things like Emotet, TrickBot, etc. As I had mentioned, the C2 stage is likely the last best chance to block a human-operated ransomware attack as well. So how do you enable network protection? We're going to talk about this in a little bit detailed, at least from the Microsoft Endpoint Manager. I'll make sure everybody gets these links, but you can do it through PowerShell, Mobile Device Manager, Microsoft Endpoint Manager, Group Policy, and of course, Microsoft Endpoint Configuration Manager as well. To do it inside of Microsoft Endpoint Manager is actually pretty simple. You go to Microsoft Endpoint Manager, you go to Devices, you go to Configuration Profile, and then you hit Create Profile. Up top, you're going to drop down Windows 10 or later, and then you're going to choose Endpoint Protection, and then hit Create. And from here, it'll open up a new page. You can give it a name, configuration testing. From here, you go to configuration. It's going to go over to Endpoint Protection. Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped one here. Let me just go back. On this side, it's going to say configuration settings. You're going to scroll down to Defender Exploit Guard, network filtering, and then you're going to see network protection, and you're going to enable network protection. Then from here, you can set up any scope tags that you want to, and then of course you can apply this set the scope of where you want this to be applied to, so you can test it out within your own environment. From here, you can set up any applicable policy rules, so only certain platforms, certain device ranges, and then you can go ahead and enable to review and create. It's easy enough to test this, so you can test this. So if you were to go to Smart Screen Test, so basically Smart Screen Testing ratings.com, which is a website that will pop up. You can also navigate through PowerShell, so you can type this in and actually, let me just hit this real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. You can actually go ahead and hit response. Let me just change where I'm sharing for a second. I should have shared on my other screen to start off with, just so you guys can see what I'm doing here. So inside of wrong one, inside of PowerShell, you would basically type in the response equals invoke web, and it's going to go to command control.smartscreen.com. You'll actually see when I kick it off, you'll see down here, this content was blocked by C2 detection. For your protection, if your IT admin is not allowing this, and then you also can hit feedback, and it'll open up our feedback as well. Even if you don't get that toast notification, turn on auto. Hey guys, can everybody hear me now?
Just
Yeah. All right, great. So I showed you the test, and it probably disabled my network connection, and hence the reason why I got blocked. So let me go ahead and hit share and share the other screen, and I'll just do it via PowerPoint slides rather than trying to set up the So like I said, you can do the response. It'll pop up a toast notification. You can invoke these, so you can, if you can't invoke these, it'll, how do I invoke Windows command? It'll show you how to do that. But in testing, the URL was successfully blocked. It'll show you that. Plus, it'll show a toast notification like I had mine pop up. The content is blocked by C2 detection. And then you can go ahead and share feedback if you wanted to. So if we're blocking something that we shouldn't, go ahead and share that feedback. And again, during the public preview, you'll be able to share this, and you can, submission was sent to, and you can fill out that information as well. One of the questions, we get sometimes is, hey, what about websites? What if somebody's going there via URL? Most command and control actions are not going to happen through a web page, but via smart screen filtering, we can actually block those. So when somebody goes there through a website, again, you can, if you're just go through the browser, it'll say can't provide a secure connection, and it'll block, and then it'll basically have the toast pop up again as well. Content is blocked basically as a C2 detection. Within the Defender portals, you'll actually see alerts popping up here. So suspicious connection was blocked, network protection blocked a potential C2 connection. So you're going to start to see that. And you can see the access is blocked based on a network policy setting by the security admin. A notification will surface on the endpoint, and security admin will see this alert in the Microsoft Defender portal. When you drill down into the alert itself, you can actually see network protection block the potential C2 process, and you can drill down there, and it will be huntable, searchable within queries as well. It'll also show the remediation process because we will be remediating it, so it'll block it. It'll remediate that process as well, so you'll see the automated remediation happening in there. Just some links, useful network protection to help prevent. If you have any feedback about this um, during the public preview, please send an email to np_c2_support_team. It's a pretty complicated email address. I didn't create it; somebody else did. But you can send your feedback there, and you can. I'll make sure everybody gets these links when I post the PowerPoint slide. And is there any questions? Hear crickets in the background. All right, I am going to turn off the recording in case people have any questions.